All right. Hello and welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I go by Blind Run on the internet and Matthew in real life. And today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin halving, of course, coming up and how that is going to affect miners, both possibly negatively and, of course, positively potentially as well. I think everything's looking very good, but we'll get into it. There are the naysayers going around right now. Early Bitcoin miner apparently also sent 1,000 Satoshi era Bitcoin to trading desks this week, which is interesting. And then JP Morgan is basically coming out and talking about which mining company stocks, public miners, that they're interested in. We're also going to be talking about Karlsen today because Karlsen has actually just kind of blown up over the past week with record highs that we haven't seen out of a newly mineable GPU mineable coin in quite some time. Kind of coming out of nowhere, getting support across the board, multiple exchanges, multiple miner support, multiple mining pool support, and then of course this recent dip in the price that a lot of people are concerned about. We also have some interesting news from the CPU side of things as we start to see declining prices on AMD CPUs that you might want to take a look at, and a new RTX 4090 with basically cutting out overclocking support and reducing the price, as well as the TDP. Will these be the next mining kings? We'll have to take a look and find out. Let's go ahead and get into all of that and more right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is BT Miners. BT Miners has been a longtime sponsor of the channel and a proven reliable source for ASIC miners. If you are looking to purchase ASICs hardware from Bitcoin to Dogecoin miners, they are available for purchase on bt-miners.com. BT Miners has recently launched an app on iOS and Android that lets you browse their inventory by profitability and return on investment. Follow the affiliate link in the description and use promo code SOAT for a discount. And welcome back. I found the BT Miners app to be super useful on my phone if I'm just running around town and then I'm like, oh, what is this miner up to or whatever. Just go ahead and check it out. It has its profitability calculator in there. It shows you how much everything is worth. It's a super useful tool, so definitely check out their app if you're interested in staying up to date with ASIC miners and their profitability. It's similar to basically hashrate.no, but for ASICs, and it's just quick access on your phone. So there you go. They're a longtime sponsor and I appreciate their support. Let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin halving and how it's poised to unleash Darwinism on miners. This is an opinion piece, of course, and it goes on to say that strong miners might be about to eat the weak ones as the reward for mining Bitcoin gets cut in half, experts say. Darwinism could soon pummel some Bitcoin miners as the halving, a once every 4-year event that cuts the reward for creating new Bitcoin, gets cut by 50%, unleashes a survival of the fittest battle in April. To prepare for the disruptive event, larger companies are securing newer and more efficient mining machines, but they might also consider gobbling up smaller miners as they figure out how to both survive and benefit from the halving. Just ask Marathon Digital, the largest publicly traded miner by hash rate, industry jargon for the computing power that it can direct towards running the Bitcoin network. The firm said this week that it's got a hoard of money, more than 800 million of cash and Bitcoin, and will seek to grow that to capitalize on strategic opportunities, including industry consolidation ahead of the halving. Now, from my perspective, when we're talking about getting into crypto mining, and I covered this over on my crypto mining e-course at sonofatech.com, we're kind of taking the scraps from these larger miners. As these larger miners start to put capital into new machines and start to liquidate their old machines is when we begin to see like this ability for people that aren't necessarily in the industry to start breaking into the industry. And this is because what they are doing is replacing extremely, cheap machines now at this point with extremely expensive machines. And they're usually just trying to move a lot of it in bulk. This is why we saw things like S19s, 95 terahashes going for under $500 a pop. And the thing is now the industry is quite shifted. Whereas previously, there wasn't a ton of custom firmware in the last bull run for a lot of ASICs. They kind of started to play around, right? We saw some of the Z-Links boards come out. We saw some custom firmware. Low power mode really didn't get a good push until the bear market. And then custom firmware didn't get a good push as well. And a lot of these older miners, you can get very, very good efficiency off of them if you're willing to put in the work. And the thing is people that are running large companies aren't always willing to put in the work there. So this means that you have this kind of opportunity to capitalize on, and it's something that I've been doing personally on the ASIC side, buying up a lot of these used ASICs, getting them cleaned up, putting on firmware that makes them extremely more efficient than they were when they were running with those farms. I mean, to give you an idea, when I'm picking up these machines from these large liquidations from these larger firms, they are still stuck on firmware that is old as hell. They didn't even during the bear market go, hey, should we flash a lot of these? Which you could do very simply with something like, Foreman or whatever. You could go through and flash all of them to a low power mode pretty simply, and you could have been way ahead. So when they're looking at efficiency, they're always looking at efficiency overall and just buying the machines, taking them from Bitmain as they are and deploying them to the network. And that means that when they go ahead and sell them, their perception of the value is much lower. And so that gives you an opportunity here to hop in. And that's what I've been doing specifically with Coastal Crypto. Shout out to Coastal Crypto and BT Miners when BT Miners has some. And then there's a lot of other outlets that you can look at. There is firmware across the board for a majority of these machines as well. Worst case, you can pick up a separate hash board for, somewhere between $50 to $150, depending on which board you're going with. And you can get these, 30 plus joules per terahash down to, 20 to 25 joules per terahash and start competing with the newer equipment that's coming on for a lot cheaper. And this is really kind of something to take a look at. And I think when we're talking about these guys looking at efficiency, trying to be more efficient, I think they're making a lot of mistakes and they're not actually utilizing their money, their capital in the best forms possible in all cases, right? So let's go ahead and move on though and see what they're doing. Another large miner, Hut 8, just completed its all-stock merger with a privately held US Bitcoin. CleanSpark has been collecting cheap assets since the start of the bear market and said that it has almost $170 million shored up to take advantage of opportunities the halving may present. And Riot Platforms, another institutional grade miner, has just ordered 66,560 new mining machines for $290.5 million to stay ahead of its competition. The scene is set for a dog-eat-dog competition. Quote, leading up to the halving and in its aftermath, miners will need to place substantial emphasis on strategic planning. The adage, quote, if you aren't growing, you're dying, holds true, end quote, said Amanda Fabiano. And this one I definitely agree with right now. I've been talking about this for a while. I mean, I get it. A lot of people, when they saw me sell Caspa to purchase Bitcoin ASICs, they think it was a dumb idea. They're always looking at the short term, but you got to understand, I'm a miner. I'm growing my crypto mining farm. And if I'm not growing that farm and I'm sitting on crypto, I'm sitting on capital and I'm not generating more revenue or the potential for more revenue, I'm dying. And that is the way this industry works. You need to always be working towards something to become more efficient, reduce your power costs. If you can increase the amount of power and cut a deal with a power company, you need to increase the amount of equipment you're holding. If you're not growing in cryptocurrency mining, you are dying. And that is the only way to survive. The good news is, of course, on the GPU mining side, just as a tangent here that I've noticed, is that for the most part, the 30 series is still extremely competitive to the 40 series. Now, in these recent releases of these new algorithms or new cryptocurrencies, not really new algorithms, we are seeing, the 40 series outperform the 30 series in something like Karlsen. But it's important to note that that's because there is no ASIC resistance deployed on those. So from a GPU mining perspective, I don't think it's something that you need to freak out about. If you sat on 3000 series, sold off all your 2000 series last bull run, I think you're in a very good position here. So you did hold through, you didn't sell off at super cheap on your GPU prices, you kept those in stock while like me and tried to like maintain and get through it, get through with some really good speculative mines like Caspa, and so on, and get yourself in a position where you're able to deploy more capital during the bear market. You're going to be in a very good spot running up into 2025, at least in my humble opinion, not financial advice, just what I'm doing, right? So, in fact, mining consultancy firm Blockbridge said that a dozen public mining companies have already committed over $1.2 billion so far this year to buy mining machines, with about $750 million US signed over the past 2 months. So how do we get here, and why are the miners racing to gear up for the halving? The Bitcoin halving, also known as the halvening, is simple. In simple terms, will make obtaining or mining new Bitcoin much harder. The halving is part of the Bitcoin network's code to reduce inflationary pressure on the cryptocurrency and will cut the rewards in half for successfully mining a Bitcoin block. A useful analogy that might resonate with the non-crypto crowd: think about extracting a finite natural resource such as gold or oil from the ground. The more that's obtained, the less that's left, making the remaining resource more valuable yet more expensive to extract. Now swap out whatever traditional commodity you had in mind and replace it with Bitcoin and crypto mining. That's the halving, a classic example of the supply and demand cycle creating scarcity-driven value for an asset. It's something Bitcoin creator Satoshi Nakamoto believed in. In fact, Bitcoin might actually be even more scarce than gold. Historically, the event has increased Bitcoin prices exponentially, creating a generational wealth for investors, but a presenting challenge for the miners that actually create Bitcoin. During the third halving, which occurred in 2020, Bitcoin's price went from around 8,500 to nearly 18,000 within a few months, while the reward for successfully mining a block was cut from 6.25 to 12.5 to 6.25 from 12.5. There you go. Yeah, so we're at 6.25 now. This time the reward will sink to 3.125 Bitcoin, making mining even more competitive. In previous cycles, there weren't many large-scale miners and even fewer publicly traded ones. During the lead up to the bull market of 2021, a swath of miners jumped into the sector to reap nearly 90% profit margins at the peak. As Bitcoin neared 70,000, miners were making money hand over fist, and many were spending and taking on debt to grow faster. Investors, including traditional financial firms, lavishing miners with cash to fuel growth, also incentivized breakneck spending and growth at any cost. And this is kind of the thing where I think people miss it. And I talk about this in my crypto mining e-course. There was a point in the last bull run where I just cut back on the amount of GPUs and everything that I was buying. It didn't make sense paying $3,000 to $4,000 for an RTX 3090 when it was very evident that we were going to start coming back down, right? Now, on the ASIC side of things, it was even more ridiculous. An S19 at the time going for $8,000 to $12,000 US didn't make much sense. But now we can get those same units for a tenth of the price, right? We're talking about like $500 a pop. And if we look at the overall kind of cyclical nature of Bitcoin and the mining space, you will see the S19s start to resurface as higher prices. So if you're just even looking at flipping equipment, it makes a lot of sense. It all came crashing down during the 2022 bear market. Profit margins got crushed and some big miners filed for bankruptcy, and access to capital markets was shut. Many miners still operating are barely surviving, waiting for the next bull run to save them. The rally in Bitcoin prices in 2023 fueled but mostly by the optimism that U.S. regulators will approve spot Bitcoin exchange traded funds, or ETFs for short, from the likes of BlackRock has helped miners somewhat. But with the Bitcoin network's hash rate at an all-time high, the difficulty mining a single block is also at a record high. High energy prices, which is definitely something to look at, and intense regulatory scrutiny, and still bone-dry capital markets, the mining landscape remains tough. I really, honestly, over the past, few months, I think since about August, the mining landscape on the Bitcoin mining side has not been that rough. Sure, the margins are difficult, but you're still in profit, which means that if you expect everything to play out the same way in general, where you expect, the halving to increase the price of Bitcoin, etc., exponentially like it has in the past, and you are still being able to purchase miners at a relatively cheap cost and then still be able to make those profitable even right now. I think over the past few months that's been the case. It's not really that sketchy of a plan. You were just talking about a slightly higher ROI time on those machines, but you're still able to stack Bitcoin that you aren't spending, cover your power, still have Bitcoin in reserve, which is increasing in value over the next year to 3 years. And I think you're in a good spot. I don't actually see it as that difficult. I think everybody getting scared is a great opportunity for everyone else, though, that's not scared of this in general. So we have a consolidation wave, which I think already happened, but miners who grew too fast are now cash strapped and looking for a light at the end of the tunnel. Struggling miners need to cut costs, shore up their balance sheets, and require more capital. All potential catalysts for mergers and acquisitions in the industry. I think a lot of this had already been happening, and I think maybe a few more will happen through April, and I think we'll see a lot of these mergers happen. However, like on the small mining side, if you're looking at just like building out your own private farm, I mean, this is where the opportunity is, because if you have someone like, I don't know, like just Marathon Digital buy up a smaller miner, right? And Marathon Digital's platform is like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to buy all S21s, the latest, greatest. So when we take over, I think you'll start to still see an influx of new or more used units hitting the market, which should drive the price down, hopefully still through April, or at least that's what I'm hoping for personally. Cutting costs will likely be a major drive of an upcoming wave in consolidation in the mining industry. Executive salaries, insurance, and other expenses benefit from economies of scale in the post-halving environment, said Ethan Vera, Chief Operating Officer at mining firm Luxor Technologies. M&A can take many shapes and forms and can be complicated. However, one of the trends that might be prominent, according to Vera, is private miners merging with public companies. And I think this will happen. Quote, off the back of Bitcoin price momentum, shareholders of private and public mining companies will look for avenues to liquidate parts of this position through publicly listed vehicles. As such, many private companies will merge with public operating companies or shells to gain access to this liquidity, end quote, he said. They will likely follow Hut 8's merger and use that as a, quote, case study to combine entities that have both strong balance sheets alongside high growth opportunities, end quote, Vera added. Fabiano echoed this when asked about how this will play out, saying, quote, mid-tier and small-scale miners should prioritize positioning themselves on the lower end of the cost curve. One likely path is merger and acquisitions given the capital-constrained market. Meanwhile, larger miners should concentrate on growth narratives that set them apart from their rivals, end quote, she said. It seems the rule of the jungle is about to be unleashed on the mining industry, perhaps expressed by a Japanese idiom, and I cannot pronounce that, which loosely translates to English as the flesh of the weak is the food of the strong. So there you go. This is what they are looking at, what the industry perspective on the halving is going to be. There seems to be a lot of darkness still surrounding the halving, which is really interesting because historically it hasn't proven out that the halving has really damaged a ton of miners. In fact, once that happens, we start to see the price increase. The expectation was somewhere between $45,000 and $50,000 US per Bitcoin to make up for the halving, and at least when I'm looking at my numbers, and that would still keep everything profitable. So the fact that we're already at 43,865, way ahead of schedule, in my humble opinion, just gives me more light at the end of the tunnel to keep building, because at this point, it still will be profitable. Yes, the margins will be less, but then that'll get pushed up in price as people try to build larger and larger firms and so on and so forth. So it doesn't scare me. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions. Are you fearful of this halving from the Bitcoin mining perspective, from the GPU mining perspective? What are your thoughts on it? I definitely want to find out. Of course, from the other side of things, if you're looking at it from a GPU mining perspective, a lot of the other coins that are GPU mineable are not going to be hitting their halving events. And to top that off, a rising tide raises all ships. So the price of Bitcoin increasing should increase the price of all GPU mineable coins, or shit coins if you prefer to call them that, which means if you're on the GPU mining side, you're probably going to benefit even more heavily off of this than you are on the ASIC side. So it's pretty incredible. The only reason I really do the Bitcoin mining ASIC side of things in general is to just hedge bets and have a more stable income. It's easier to predict, it's easier to play with, and you get kind of that base level revenue that for your cash flow that allows you to be riskier on the GPU mining side and so on. So on the GPU mining side, right, a lot of spec mining, a lot of mining a ton of stuff before it even hits markets, building up large bags of things that have never been listed on an exchange, just to see if we can do that. Cover the cost, you know, with the Bitcoin miners, play it riskier on the GPU mining side, and sit back and see what happens. And it seems to be playing out quite nicely, especially over the past few months. Now, early Bitcoin miner apparently sent 1,000 Satoshi era Bitcoin to trading desks this week. These Bitcoin were mined at the very early stages of the network for an estimated $100 as per Crypto Quant. Somebody that did some early Bitcoin mining is just cashing in right now. I don't know why you cash in right now. Would you cash in 1,000 Bitcoin right now, or would you still hold? I mean, I suppose if you're in a position where you really need that liquidity, maybe it is time. Maybe they are a miner and they're going to buy a bunch of mining equipment right before this. That's a potential, I suppose. What would you do, right? A significant amount of Bitcoin acquired by mining. Yeah, so we covered that. Sorry. Over 1,000 Bitcoins is how much from an early miner were moved to trading desk and custodian services on December 4th, on-chain data firm Crypto Quant shared with CoinDesk in a Thursday report. These tokens were previously moved 13 years ago between August and November of 2010 and were mined from block rewards at an estimated total cost of $100. Here's the address, and it received 999.99 Bitcoin in a single transaction and sent the holding to several addresses shortly after receiving them. The Bitcoin transferred was eventually consolidated into an address that is listed on the CoinDesk article, which now holds a balance of 1,028 Bitcoin. These Bitcoin holdings have a market value of 40 million US dollars at current prices. Satoshi era refers commonly to the period when Bitcoin's pseudonymous creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, was active on online forums from late 2009 to 2011. Quote, "We speculate this early miner has sold the 1,000 Bitcoin, sending them into an over-the-counter or custodian service," end quote. Crypto Quant analyst told CoinDesk in a note, because of the transaction patterns of the receiving address, there is a possibility that the Bitcoin was sent into an over-the-counter or custodian service, end quote. Several Satoshi era Bitcoin have been active since the start of 2023. In July, a wallet that had been dormant for 11 years transferred $30 million worth of assets to other wallets, while in August, another wallet transferred 1,005 Bitcoin to a new address. Such activity comes amid renewed optimism for Bitcoin adoption as prices have more than doubled on a year-to-date basis. It is believed Bitcoin's price has been rising dramatically over the past few weeks because of the anticipation around the approval of a possible ETF. Traders pricing in expected rate cuts in the US, which buoys risky bets such as technology stocks and Bitcoin, and possibly sovereign adoption as Bitcoin-friendly leaders take the helm in major economies. Yeah, talk about El Salvador just getting paid off right now. Like all of that struggle from them, everybody talking crap about them, and then it's like, the other countries are like, maybe we screwed up yet. Maybe we screwed up. All right, let's talk about another Bitcoin miner, CleanSpark, into cut neutral. Wait, yeah. So Bitcoin miner CleanSpark cut to neutral. Riot Platforms upgraded to neutral, says JP Morgan. So they're bringing down the. Here's what's happening. JP Morgan is essentially reevaluating public crypto mining platforms, CleanSpark and Riot Platforms. Riot got upgraded to neutral and CleanSpark got cut down to neutral. The 4-year block reward revenue opportunity is about 31 billion at current Bitcoin prices, the report said. JP Morgan is tweaking its price targets and ratings for Bitcoin mining stocks to reflect the recent rally in the leading cryptocurrency. The network hash rate and other company-specific news, the bank said in a research report Friday. Since the bank last refreshed its price targets on these stocks, the Bitcoin price has risen 12%, and the network hash rate has increased by 2%. Therefore, it lifts its spot Bitcoin price assumption to 44,000 from 38,000, and its baseline network hash rate assumption to 485 exahash from 475 exahash. The bank cut its rating on CleanSpark to neutral from overweight and reduced its price target on the stock from $8 to $9, noting that the shares have gained more than 130% in the last month and so are now properly valued. On the other side of things, Riot Platforms has been upgraded to neutral from underweight with an increased price target from $12 to $12 from $8. JP Morgan remains overweight Iris Energy, its top pick in the sector, and raises its price target from $9.50 from $9. The bank maintains its underweight rating on Marathon Digital, but raises its price target to $8.50 from $8. Quote, at current prices, we size the 4-year block reward opportunity at $31 billion US, up from 11% in December 1st and 105% year over year, analysts Reginald Smith and Charles Pierce wrote. So it looks like, the large banking industry is taking note of the increase in price of Bitcoin, but I could have told you this last year. In fact, I'm pretty sure I did. I told you guys we would be right here at this price point before the halving. I told you guys that. So we've known this. We knew where we were going to be. It's fine. The question will be do we go up even further from here? I still think like the cap before April is probably 50,000. I know that sounds not that optimal, right? But I like to be conservative as far as that is concerned. Do you guys think before April or before the halving we will exceed that, or do you think it will go down? The only kind of factor that I think is interesting is more difficulty on the network as the S21s get delivered after the first of the year. And that increase in difficulty could increase the cost to mint even further. And in that particular case, we could see in general maybe a price that goes up a little bit higher. It would be a little crazy to see us go above previous all-time highs before the typical time target of 6 months to a year after the halving. I don't know. Just kind of some thoughts as far as that goes. Now, you guys mined during the bear market. You made it through. Well, at least maybe a half of you. I know a lot of you motherfuckers over here didn't actually do it, but the ones that did, I have a new shirt for you guys, and it says, I mined with the bears for the bear market, okay? So if you mined with the bears and you want to rep that you did mine during the bear market, go ahead and head on over to shop.sonofatech.com. And the listing will be down below. I'll put it in live chat right now. I have a sweatshirt. There's a sticker if you'd rather have a sticker, t-shirt, premium shirt, all that cool stuff. Really like the new shirt. I ordered a few for myself and I just had that design finished this week. Eventually it'll be on the YouTube channel, but that takes a little bit of time. So just give it some time. Proceeds, of course, go to supporting me in the channel. So there you go. And I thought we put some work into it and I thought you guys might enjoy it. Speaking of mining during the bear market and keeping your GPUs profitable now, because now you can turn on and be profitable, which is absolutely amazing. So we'll start to see a lot more people turn on, obviously, from the amount of viewership that we're starting to get now. Once again on these live shows, I'd say that we're starting to see people come back into the GPU mining space. Hopefully you didn't liquidate a bunch of your GPUs at like $75 a pop and you held on to them, because I think GPUs are going to start getting scarce again. In fact, we can't even buy RTX 4090s anymore right now, which I have one 4090. I wish I would have bought a couple more, but that's okay. There's still other opportunities. Been talking about those. There's definitely some opportunities on the GPU side of thing for sure. But Unminable has listed Karlsen, and Karlsen's been blowing up. And the thing is, like, if you look at like hashrate.no, even with the price dip, right, of Karlsen, across the board, I mean, it's still the most profitable for the most part on any GPU available. The thing is, a lot of miners are kind of leery surrounding that project because we are talking about a fork that came from Caspa, a relatively lazy fork by definition. You know, all we saw on the algorithm side was the swap from Shaw to Blake 3, which is their, like, supposedly their ASIC resistant, which is like basically just saying we're going to make it take a little bit longer for somebody to develop FPGA or ASIC. There's assumptions already that FPGAs are probably on the network, given the amount of hash rate on the network and so on. It's probably true. ASICs could be put on it. So, you know, from the idea of we're going to be ASIC resistant, it's like, well, GPU miners are like, I don't know, like put in a little more work on the algorithm. So, you know, if you're a GPU miner and you're just mining for profit, you do have an option now over on Unminable where you can mine Karlsen and swap out for anything down here. So there is that option. You can do that, or you could even do it flip. You know, let's say you think Karlsen's going to go up. You could throw your Caspa ASIC on Unminable and basically mine Caspa and get paid out in Karlsen. So here's an option. It got listed. Karlsen support, I mean, is honestly looking super impressive. So whether or not, you know, your opinion on it, like as far as forkiness goes or whatever, it should be noted that this is probably the most supported coin that I've ever seen come out within a very short amount of time. And that might be, you know, with its timing right before the bull run, very significant. If they keep up with development, if they keep moving towards more ASIC resistance, if they move towards that, if they keep doing the pull updates from any updates on the Caspa side of things and keep that up to date, and they actually get smart contracts and all of that stuff deployed, the growth, if they maintain all of the development, the growth is impressive. It could just keep going. And because the actual rewards are quite a bit less than Caspa, right? And will be going down even more significantly. And the cost to mint Karlsen is higher because you're utilizing GPUs primarily. Even on the FPGA side, that definitely cost to mint is much higher than ASICs. You know, things are looking good. That being said, what we saw this week was very weird. We saw a huge price increase into a price dump, right? If we look over the past 7 days here, let's go past 2 weeks. Can we even go back that far? No, we can't. Okay. So we had, I thought maybe they didn't get listed on here quick enough. Anyways, before this, it was even lower. We probably need to go to something else. But, you know, we saw this big uptick all the way up to like 26 cents, and then we saw it come back down. The oddity here that I saw that I noticed was everything was kind of green, including Karlsen over the past week, except for Caspa, which had a major amount of sell pressure. I'm not really sure what's going on there. I have some tinfoil hat ideas. Maybe you guys are getting what I'm getting at, you know, getting what I'm putting down, what I think might have happened. I mean, I would assume if you were developing Karlsen, you probably were super into Caspa, right? I would assume that. Maybe an early GPU miner with a ton of Caspa laying around. It's the only coin that's getting sell pressure, while the new GPU ASIC resistant one is booming in price. I don't know. I'm just saying, you know, are you getting what I'm putting down there? Maybe, just maybe that's what was going on. I don't really know. I wasn't really a part of it. I only mined about 3,000 Karlsen before it got released. And when it got released and those were like, you know, above 10 cents. I was like, just sell it. I mean, that's what I usually do with my spec mines. Like, sell it while the price is high because it's always going to come back down. Now, I didn't think that it would get buffered this long because usually you don't see a buffer of increase in price for like a week before you start to see it correct. Usually when a new coin comes out, you see basically a large candle and then a large dump off right off. So day one of exchange listing, I'm usually like in that exchange with my spec mine coin listed, and then I sell it at that high price. The price tanks, I rebuy in. But the Karlsen just played a lot differently because of the adoption. And so, you know, I should have held longer. It was really out of nowhere for me. What did you guys do? Did you spec mine any Karlsen? I think I only had like 2 or 3 rigs on it. I have 1 rig on it now. We'll talk about it here in a little bit, but most of my stuff's been moved back off. And that's kind of the way it goes. But we also have 2 miner support just came out for Karlsen. The pool hash rate's pretty, you know, obviously been going up quite a bit, 16, 17 terahash a second with a little dip off and then coming back up. So 2 miner support you got out there, all of that stuff. And then miner support out the wazoo, SRB miner version 2.4.2, which we already covered, added support for Karlsen. And then you had Rigel miner come out and add support for Karlsen right after that. And then boom, we have BZ miner, the latest support. BZ miner update though, we need to go into more detail because version 19 has not only Karlsen support and it supports solo mining without a bridge, because BZ miner, remember, he did this with Kaspa way back before any pools were released for Kaspa. We were having to build stratums because there were no stratum bridges for the Kaspa node. And while we were working on that, and we had community members like One More B Smith working on these stratums to get basically the ability for other miners to work on Kaspa and all of that, we had BZ miner just come out and give us a bridgeless version miner for Kaspa, which is what really like was able for me to like throw on the whole farm to Kaspa. So huge shout out to BZ miner for getting that done. Now the support's here for Karlsen, but Karlsen already had support for pool mining right off the bat. So I don't know that it's as big of a deal, but if you could still solo mine it, if you had enough hash rate, it's definitely something to take a look at because you don't have to build out more infrastructure. You just spin up the node, you point, and you go with BZ miner. Very easy to do. And you could even go back to the old Kaspa guides on how to spin up the node and how to mine to it, and they would work here. So, you know, you just replace all the Kaspa with Karlsen and go. Oh no, we're frozen. Let me check the video here. Can you guys still hear me? I think the camera just froze. Yeah, it looks like the camera just froze. So let me check the camera and see here what is going on. And then we'll keep going. But I think this is really interesting overall. All right, let me remove the camera. Oh man, technical difficulties. I rebuilt this computer and maybe we just have some issues. You know what I'm saying? Let's see if we can get this working. Live and ready to go. Nope. We're going to have to delete that overall. Where can I add? Maybe if I just unplug it and plug it back in. You know what I mean? Let's try that. Let's try unplugging it and plugging it back in. That didn't do anything. That didn't do anything. Oh, wow. Okay, so we're going to have to just re-add it all. Let me see if we can. just throw it over to like something else. And then we'll just add this in. Nope. Why does it? Oh, there it is. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Remove that one. You guys can see you're seeing behind the scenes. You know what I mean here? You see in behind the scenes work on the fly. I'm not sure what happened there. Whatever. Close enough. Then we'll add the color key. Bam, bam. Oh, something like that. Boom, baby. That's how it's done. On the fly. Okay. All done. All right. Train of thought. We need to go over the rest of BZ Miner version 19. We talked about Karlsen, how it supports solo mining without a bridge. We talked about the significance of that with Caspa. Of course, it doesn't really apply to Caspa anymore. And then here's a few other things. For Dynex, they replaced pool hash rate column with the proof of work hash rate. And then they added Dynex proof of work ratio config option in the configuration. This is going to get really interesting, guys, because we're going to go over the details. But what BZ Miner is doing with proof of useful work Dynex is really interesting. So it says they added support for it, but then ZIL uses Epoch 1 by default. It prevents initial DAG recreation on first ZIL window. And then for the Dynex proof of work ratio for Hive users, here is the configuration. Now, I've been playing with this on Intel Arc because if you guys remember, Intel Arc GPUs got removed from the actual mining Dynex because of no FP64 support. However, now what we're seeing is BZ Miner added back in support for Intel on Dynex because what they were able to do was remove the useful work portion and you can just mine the proof of work portion, which is really interesting. So NVIDIA proof of useful work hash rate will be improved in later releases. Intel Arc support for only proof of work, of course, are the notes here. But you have this proof of work ratio where BZ allows you to dedicate individual cards to either proof of work or proof of useful work on Dynex using this option. This is an array of values, one for each GPU. So in the config, you can basically set it to 1, 2, I believe it's 1 or 2. Or 0. So here's how they work out. A value of 0 will mine only proof of useful work. A value of 1, which is what's set to default, will mine both proof of useful work and proof of work, and it will choose a proof of work ratio that matches proof of useful work. And then value 2, which you would need to use for Intel, for example, will fully mine only proof of work. Any value higher than 1 will not mine proof of work or proof of useful work. A value between 0 and 1 will determine how much proof of work is mined. Values closer to 1 will mine proof of work more intensely, while values closer to 0 will mine proof of work less intensely. There's going to be a lot of tweaking that you're going to be able to do with this, especially on the dual mining side, because that's where things get interesting. Like, let's say you're dual mining something that is extremely intensive and you want to stay really low on the intensity on the Dynex side. You can tweak that all the way down now. So the potential here is actually endless. It's quite impressive. I started playing with it. I haven't played with it on anything but Intel. I just wanted to see if it worked on Intel. Still working out some bugs there. I'll be doing a video on it, but definitely go check this out. So a statistic in the status column of the tables called proof of work slip will show you how much proof of work hash rate above or below the proof of useful work hash rate you are doing. If below, you should increase your proof of work hash rate. If above, you are wasting resources doing unnecessary proof of work hash rate, and you should lower your proof of work hash rate. Note, it is not possible to be rewarded for proof of work hash rate above your proof of useful work hash rate. So that means like, basically you're trying to keep it in balance to where you have the perfect amount of proof of work and proof of useful work to max that out. And then if you're decreasing the proof of useful work, you can kind of play with it. Really, really cool stuff. And he also added Dynex intensity. So the intensity option in BZ will determine how much VRAM to utilize to mine Dynex. A value of 64, the highest, will use all available RAM. A value of 1 will use the minimum amount of RAM, and the default is 0 and converts to 64 internally. So there you go. Now, there's some known issues with this one. I'll let you guys go over it later. Let's go ahead and talk about... I don't know what we're going to talk about. We talked about Karlsen. Let's talk about hardware. Yeah, that's what I had planned. When there's technical difficulties, you get thrown off. It is what it is. It happens, you know? All right. Ryzen 7 7800 X3D, AMD's best CPU for gaming. One of the best for mining. If we go over, let me go check this out again. If you got the, where is it? Did they list it over here? Yeah. Doing really well on Ghostwriter algorithms. Right here. It's actually on sale right now. You can check out the link down in the description. It's an Amazon link. But following Black Friday, AMD has lowered the price of its 8-core Ryzen 7 7800 X3D CPU to $358 US. Briefly last week, this price had reached a new low of $348, marking the CPU or the first $100 drop compared to official MSRP of $449. This price has now gone up by $10 and seems that it may be AMD's new retail price for this particular processor. While popular US retailers are sticking to this price, over at eBay, Antolin is offering the CPU at a much lower price of $339 if you want to go over there. This is the first time this CPU has dropped below $340. Typically, eBay offers featuring Ryzen CPUs from known retailers do not include currently offered game bundles, but in this case, customers will also receive a copy of the Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. So there you go. You could, buy it, mine on it, and then play that new game. Are you guys Avatar fans? I'm not really an Avatar fan. I heard the game might be good. I haven't looked at it, but there you go. Let's talk about the RTX 4090. Obviously been out of stock quite frequently. It looks like they're starting to take... Now, they're going to be taking, obviously, binned versions of the 4090 that don't clock as high and creating a new 4090 that is called the 4090D, which they say stands for Dragon for the next Chinese New Year, but, I would call it, I don't know. I can't think of anything. I can think of something, but I'm not going to say it. Okay. NVIDIA is set to release a special edition of its GeForce RTX 4090, specifically tailored for the Chinese market. Now, that's an interesting play there, because if you recall, there has been blocks on the Chinese market from the US for GPUs as it relates to AI and the dangers of, China having access to AI and so on. So this model being cut down and then still being for the Chinese market is really interesting. But what we have on top of that is that this model is based on the 8102 and is designed to navigate around the US restrictions that initially obstructed the import of the original 4090 into China. While the new model is anticipated to have a reduced speed, this adjustment ensures compliance with the restrictions. So what are they doing, right? They're reducing the speed of the 4090 so that it's not as good at AI. However, what that does mean is if we look at it, like, honestly, it seems like it's probably pretty good for mining still, at least on the memory side of things. Because if we go over there, yes, the base clock's been cut down. Well, actually, not even cut down. It doesn't even look like. It looks like 2280 versus 2235. I mean, you have to look at this. I think they're going to have less CUDA cores and stuff like that. But it's rumored to have the same amount of memory at GDDR6 with the same bus width of 384 bits. It's also supposed to drop the thermal design power from 450 to 425 watts. And it could be really interesting to see how these perform. Hopefully what we see is, like, obviously you can still rent on like things like Bass.ai, Chlor.ai, Tensor, etc. 4090s in China. Hopefully maybe we see these at a cut down cost over in China, and we can rent them and see how they perform. Or hopefully, you know, we start to see some US side. I'm really interested to see how these benchmark on a lot of the newer coins, if they really are cut down that much, and how their performance really is on AI, because presumably these would still be just as good. It's not like you can't use a 4070 for AI rendering and, you know, just have a bunch more of them, that sort of thing. Kind of a weird thing happening here. What are you guys' thoughts on this? Also, should NVIDIA be going around the tariffs, or not the tariffs, I guess the restrictions, the export restrictions and so on? What's your thoughts and opinions on that? Now, we had a rebranding. It was successful of Ethereum to Hypera. And this is the new website. This is what it looks like. If you hear people talking about mining Hypera, it is essentially just, you know, Ethereum. So this is the new logo. This is what it looks like. I tweeted it out. It kind of redid the website a little bit, obviously, to accommodate for that. It's supposed to be low cost, blah, blah, blah. You can go over the same BS. Obviously, the big thing about Hypera that I was interested in is it took ET hash and implemented Blake 3. Technically, we could see ASICs for it, just like we saw in ET hash. However, I think that's quite unlikely, especially because the R&D for that would be quite intense. So right now you have, you know, basically something that will look like mining Ethereum, will basically act like mining Ethereum, but will, you know, not have the ASICs on it. I've mined my big bag of it already. I don't know if I'll continue to mine it at this point or not. We'll have to see how its performance pans out moving on. I do think it was great. I think as far as the rebranding, I think it needed to be done. Those ties to Ethereum, not good. The fork side of things too, that's gotten a lot better, because with the rebrand of Hypera, a lot of the references to Ethereum were removed. And as a part of that, they caught references in the code to Ethereum that have also been updated. So it's starting to look less and less like a fork and more of its own thing. That's a positive as far as I'm concerned with that. So there you go. Now, my mining farm, I am still primarily mining Ablecoin right now. There's guides over on Locals, so as you can see, a majority of my rigs are over there. I do have my RTX 3090s on KLS by themselves because, well, frankly, I'm running fanless right now because I need fan replacements. They're in a server case. It just stays cool. It's easy to run, so that I'm letting them run haywire on KLS and just calling it a day, right? That being said, I did move my other NVIDIA rigs over to Alephium, and I moved my Intel rigs over to Alephium and Ergo, because Alephium essentially, if we go look over here, I don't know if it's changed. It might change soon, but we had basically a huge decrease in the hash rate, and then of course it's just come back up. So I was mining Alpha all here, starting to come back up because of the decrease in the price of Ethereum and the new dual mining support that we've seen from SRB Miner and as well as from BZ Miner. So we're starting to see more hash rate come back on to Alpha. I'll probably be hunting for a new one. I'll let you know over on Locals, where I cover my daily moves, because this hash rate coming back up means my yield's not going to be as good. So I'm going to be looking for something else as far as yields go. I think Ergo is still looking good on yields. Let's go look. No, it's not. It's back up. Ergo barely lost anything, but no, it's still looking good on yields. Yeah, so I'll probably leave the dual mining with Ergo. Let me look at what Radiant's doing, kind of look around. Yeah, all right. I found my fucking target, boys. Hey, get out of here. Go to locals. I found my target. Honing in. I found my target. All right. So let's go ahead and get into questions and answers. Remember, super chats are never required, always appreciated, first to get answered. Also, don't forget to go ahead and hit the like, comment, subscribe down below, and check out my crypto mining e-course at sonofatech.com, as well as my locals page at sonofatech.locals.com. I put a lot of content over there that is exclusive to locals, and the community is amazing. Let's go ahead and get into the questions and answers for the day. All right, so got it. Rockport says KLS coin transfer speed is very slow, not even close to Caspa. Is that a Blake algo issue? Not impressed with moving coins on the confirmation rate. I think it's an older it's an older version of Caspa. So like I was saying, they really need to update and implement all of the Caspa stuff over to it, because Caspa wasn't any faster or slower really when we saw the move from GPU to ASICs. But since the move to ASICs, they've implemented code that has increased the speed. So or fixed a lot of that. Plus we have Rust coming up, all that sort of stuff they're gonna have to move along with Caspa on a lot of that, and I don't know that they will. So we'll have to see where that goes. Deadbite says, S7Tech, are you going to get the Bitmain S21 to try out? Maybe we'll have to see where things go, you know. Gordon says, S7Tech, the Caspa Discord is commenting on how your hair looks now. What do you mean, that I have a beard and that my hair is a little shorter? Cool. Scale says, S7Tech sent you a DM on Discord. All right, I'll check it out. Hey, we have a $9.99 from Lee, says, YoTech Jesus coin. First base coin to just get 10K. No, sir. We're not doing that. I'm sorry. But thank you for the donation. Rockport says, Son of a Tech, KLS coin. I already addressed that. Yeti in the chat. What's up, my man? Good to see you here. Jesus coin works for at least 2 religions, or 3. Come on. It depends on how I mean, it could be like a lot, technically. 3 overarching religions. FE says, after the next bull run, you're going to get a Lambo, Cybertruck, or F350. I'm not getting shit, bro. I'll stay with what I got until it breaks, and then I'll buy another old one. Rockport says, Son of a Tech, thanks for the clarification. Hodl, there you go. Dude the Nerd says, Son of a Tech, if you had 50K wish list to spend on mining equipment, what would you buy? I mean, right now, S19 95 terahashes, they're going for like what? 420, 467 if you buy in bulk at 50K. Elm Aussie says, Ask Tech, would you buy a new S19J Pro 104 at 2,125 USDT? If you have 1.6 cents per kilowatt hour, sounds good. That sounds expensive for an S19J Pro. I mean, that sounds expensive to me. Peller says, Ask Tech, do you think that Friendcoin is even worth mining? I see it as a joke and a long shot. I don't really know anything about Friendcoin. Vinny says, able difficulty up or down? It's going to go up, I think, when the next epoch hits. Our mind says Caspa should be a great hold this cycle, mainly because the amount of ASIC users that have to pay off their new shiny machines. That would be the opposite effect. Your reasoning is the opposite effect. That doesn't make any sense. If you need to pay something off and you're mining that coin, then you have to sell that coin, which adds sell pressure to the network to pay off your machine. It's backwards. Adam says, son of a tech, I'm debating on increasing on GPUs or getting some more ASICs. I think GPUs are better for bear markets due to spec mining, and ASICs for bull or better for profits. Thoughts? I think ASICs are better for bear markets. I mean, like I said, I already talked about my strategy, which is you have your buffer of your like the Bitcoin ASICs that you know will make a certain amount, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot more easy to predict and so on. And you have your GPUs for spec. Thanks for the $5 super chat, dude. The nerd says, Ask Tech, thanks for sticking with us through the bear market. You're great. Keep it up. Thanks for continuing to watch, my man. Son of a Rabid Panda says, Ask Tech, you talked about efficiency increase on ASICs after software update. Is this valid for updating MOBO bias on CPU mining? No. Not near the efficiency increase on ASICs. In fact, a lot of motherboard bias you got to be careful with, because in a lot of cases they're looking to increase voltage to your CPU, not decrease, because they're gaming focused. Bacon, Eggs, and Hash says, Ask Tech, do you think the liquid layer will do anything? It's still testnet right now. I have no idea what liquid layer is. Frank says, Ask Tech, how do you get paid from NiceHash Bitcoin Lightning Network? What do you mean? You want to get paid on the Lightning Network when you're mining through NiceHash? I haven't looked into it. I'm still not getting paid out on the Lightning Network over there. Please tag @SonOfATech to highlight the message orange. Custom Computing says, how many GPUs do you still have going at your farm? What, didn't we just have that up? I did just have that up. What is that? 82 plus 22. That's 104 GPUs plus 6 Intel cards. 110 GPUs currently running at the GPU farm. Custom. JR says, Ask Tech, what would you mine on a 3060 Ti, 3070, and 3090 today? I mean, why wouldn't you just go Karlsen? Use unmineable if you want to stack something else. Right? I mean, personally, like I told you guys, I'm mining Able, but... Son of a Rabid Panda says, Ask Tech, like your energy prepares me for the week ahead. There you go, man. Sustainable says, Ask Tech, thoughts on Caspa hitting Coinbase? I mean, obviously, anything hitting Coinbase is going to be good for price, right? More eyes on it. It's already listed very high on CoinMarketCap. I would presume that we would see a nice price pump. Pellish Miner says, Ask Tech, thank you again for the tip on Caspa. Still holding from last year in October. Awesome, dude. Elmi says, Ask Tech, is there a way of buying the Ecourse with USDT or BTC? I haven't yet. I need to get that sorted. That's a little bit more difficult, unfortunately, right now. Adam says, Ask Tech, for proof of stake, I explain it in simple terms that it performs similar to stocks and has the same centralization problems. I'm right, or am I missing some details? It's not quite the same, right? Because you still don't have the same trading hours as stocks, so that's definitely different. When you're talking about centralization, I think the centralization's on the compute side of things for the most part, right? So as far as like centralization of the currency, the volume of the currency, and like the distribution, no. Not necessarily. unless like you have a ton of it staked, right? So it really depends on how much is in circulation versus how much needs to be staked to actually operate the network, and then where that staking is being held. Like a majority of the problem with proof of stake is that it's staked on servers that are run by, you know, the three largest cloud hosting services, either AWS, Microsoft, or Google, right? So it, that's changing, I think, especially these hybrids seem to be changing. Um, and then with the influx of things like Chlor.ai, which I think should just be renamed to like Chlor VPS or something, because it's basically a VPS. Here's the other thing that you're going to see a lot of, by the way, guys. You need to understand that the AI bullshit is not AI. Vast.ai is not AI. It's virtual private servers in the fucking cloud. That's all it is. Same with Chlor. Chlor is just virtual private servers with GPUs added onto them, right? It's not AI. Like maybe you could rent it out and do AI on it if you want, or you could rent it out and do other stuff. It's not. It's just the AI tick term is just gonna trick people in retail that don't know anything about tech. That's all it is. JR says that's something like mine, Karlsen, and HODL. Like I said, I pull out daily for covering electricity costs. I don't encourage hodling at all. I encourage buying miners when you can, you know, and I encourage buying, you know, mostly if you can, buying consumer grade available hardware that I make no money off of. So do with that what you will. Integra guy says that's not a tech update on Able node working yet. I have the node working. I'm not mining to it right now. I'm gonna actually call out this comment, Pellish Miner, because it's a it's a dangerous perspective to take. Pellish Miner says, not going to mine Karlsen, I see it as a joke. If you are refusing to mine the most profitable, you're only doing yourself a disservice. And if you align yourself with a certain cryptocurrency, regardless of its performance as a miner, you are making a mistake. It is bad business practice, and I would not invest in your fucking company. It's like straight up, dude. Anime says, at Tech, do you have any Caspa ASICs? Yes, I do. Nicholas Pitt says, at Tech, what about NER AI? I mean, I haven't looked into NER AI and how it functions, if it's VPS or what, but we'll have to check it out later. Adam says, at Tech, do you have a node guide for KLS on locals? No, I don't, but it's on YouTube. It's on YouTube. So you can go look at it there. It's technically Windows, but all the commands, if you know Linux, you just take the commands, you add the little dot and the thing in front of it and just go. It's the same thing. I haven't looked at Pyrin. I heard about it, and then didn't the network go down for a little bit, stuff like that? I thought a pool went down or whatever. Well, what is the emission? Like, what we looked at that. I think I looked at it earlier this week, but let's look at that again too. Aren't the emissions still absolutely insane on KLS? If we go here and we sort by emissions last 24 hours, $627,000 in emissions on Karlsen over the past 24 hours for a GPU mineable coin that launched like 2 weeks ago and just had a 16% price dip. That's insane, dude. Crypto KJ says it's still down. Yeah, okay. So Pyron's still down. The fork stopped A6 and broke it. We got Crypto Mikkel up in here. Make sure you guys go follow him over on YouTube. Based Insight says, outside of a tech, have you explored Vast AI yet? Just curious. I had a bunch of 30 series cards, and so far, it's been the most profitable for me and really doesn't use much power. The reason it's been most profitable for you is if you go over to my locals page, I have a guide on how to mine Ablecoin with it. I was renting your rigs out. That is now going away, so you're going to start to see profit reduced. You need to know why your rigs are making money over there. I think we were renting out. I think one day we rented out like $1,700 worth of rigs on Vast AI, and the profit was insane. Is creating a 4090 mining rig a good idea at all? Not really. I don't think so. Like, where's your availability, right? So it all comes down to like what availability is and what you're going to pay, right? I mean, so if we looked at, I don't know, let me go to Amazon, RTX 4090, if they even have any in stock. They got some, but they're all like $2,300 or more. So if you look at, okay. So if we looked at, let me look at this again. Hold on. Does that give us, okay. So, okay. So what you need to do, right, is go to hashrate.no. You look at like profitability on the 4090. Stupid guy's getting on Alf now. Why are you guys getting on my coin, baby? All right. So, so you look at like a 4090 profitability at 272 a day. Whatever, right? At 12 cents a kilowatt hour. You look at the price or whatever, you're like, okay, well, my 1,000 ROI or whatever. And you could just do like a 4080, right? Go down the list. You know, $11.99. Your ROI is probably a little bit, I mean, maybe a little bit better. I think maybe the ROI on the 4090 is better. Then you go to like 4070 Ti. Go down the list. Well, you're going to have to do the work. I can't do the work for you. Run the numbers. You only have to pay $782 for a 4070 Ti. And the profit's $127 right now. Right? But then you get into weird games. Right? You get into like a really weird game. Like the game I'm playing. You look at like an A750. 179. You go over here, you look at like an A750, guess what? They aren't even calculating what the actual profitability of this damn GPU is. Look for the outliers, the things nobody's paying attention to. You know? Which exchange you recommend for Karlsen to USDT? I mean, you got all of them. So, I mean, ZegX is good. I've used ZegX a lot in the past. You got Trade Ogre, which I would probably avoid. And you got that new one, non-KYC. I'd probably just default to like ZegX just because I'm used to it. Adam says, that's have a deck. Do you think this crypto cycle we will see the end of stable coins and stabilization of some cryptocurrencies to capable of daily transactions? If not, what needs to happen? I'll tell you what I think happens. I think we see stable coins go away for central, CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. And I think they come down on stable coins pretty hard. What that might do, right? Like I've talked about the two paths before, that might force us into a path of everybody just going into Bitcoin regardless of what the government says. You know? Chris says, that's how Deck followed your initial Karlsen video and was sloppy. You're welcome for the 50 KLN. Oh, did you mind my address? Come on, bro. I had someone the other day send me 500 Caspa. It was 564 Caspa. I sent it back. Now, if you mine to it, though, it's hard for me to verify that you actually did it. Right? But I saw that transaction come in, and I go, oh, okay, I know who that is. Or, right? Just copy the address it came from, send it back. So I sent that back. It happens. I try to always send it back if people do that. But if you mine to it, it's a little impossible. All right, boys, thanks for hanging out today. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bells down below. We're back in it. GPU mining is alive and well. ASIC mining is alive and well. And we are getting ready to go into the pump. To prepare yourself, please check out my e-course at sonofatech.com. And if you want to check out my daily moves, please check out my supporter status on sonofatech.locals.com. I will see you next Tuesday.